Hello, Haley here, and this is the first holistic creative chat of 2015, and I'm super excited to have first guest of the year. One of the contributors for Spectrum 2015 as well is Lisa Claudia Briggs of intuitivebody.com. Lisa is an intuitive coach, a psychotherapist, a mentor. She studied with Carolyn Mace, oh my goodness, who I just adore, and in the past has worked in healthcare and trauma and crisis. And when I first was looking around and I found Lisa, and I don't remember how, I was following one of those little networks online, and looking around at her site and looking at what she did and watching some videos she had out there, I really got this impression that her art is the art of witness and relationship and holding space and truth-telling. And that was just the energy that came through for me from the work you have out there, Lisa. So thank you for agreeing to this chat and welcome.
Thank you. You know, I'm so excited to be here and to be first. That way. But I'm incredibly excited about this project, and for a lot of reasons. A lot of, a real mix of reasons. One, I'm the daughter of two artists and two designers. I don't think I told you that. So there's always been a lot of visual, and beauty and creativity around me, and beauty and healing to me go together. Living in your senses, and finding those ways to drop into your body and expression for all of that. It's such a way to move energy and to be, to be in the world. But thank you for the introduction. I'm very excited to be here.
Absolutely. So let's just dive right in and talk a little bit about what you and I have already been dialoguing briefly about through emails and just before we hit record, is this idea of creative practice and creative process. And one of the things that I try to do with both Spectrum and these holistic creative chats is to have conversations and create offerings with people where some of the contributors in that may not self-identify as an artist per se, but that we get to really see how creativity permeates all these facets of our life and our wholeness. So if you could speak a little bit to what your creative process looks like or has looked like over the years. Yeah.
It's a really challenging question for me. I'll just preface it by saying that because, I don't always think of myself, especially in this community. I'm definitely not an artist in that way, but I definitely live in the realm of creativity. I live very much, in the sensual realm, and I believe that, if I'm not in my body, in my senses, in that kind of awareness, not much is happening. It becomes very, we start to grind away. It's like leaving your car on in the driveway with the engine on. It's just grinding away at nothing much can flow.
Yeah.
And so I think that, for me, I, as I was saying a minute ago, like I'm still so in love with beauty, but beauty for me can be like a stick in a jar. Like my friends laugh at me because what I bring in and what, part of my creative process is, I was just thinking about this morning, is creating vignettes. Like I almost treat my house like a dollhouse. Not that there's nothing precious about it, but in terms of, I love to make groupings. I love to play. I love to bring in new color. I love to bring something else in. I like to take something away. I just created this whole white and silver thing in a cabinet in my office. If you're having a dinner party, how it looks on the plate. Not that, and this is so not about perfectionism, because if I think I have to get anything perfect, I get really anxious and don't want to do it. So I always have to trick myself. Part of my creative process is lying to myself and saying, this will be really easy. This will be, whether it's a dinner party for 12 or whether it's, writing another ebook or, redoing something in my house. I always have to tell myself, this will be really easy. This is sort of no big deal.
No big deal. Yeah.
I have to literally trick myself into most of it, because I think otherwise, and I talk a lot about perfectionism in my work because most of the women that I work with, excuse me, are some kind of sensitive. They're very empathic. They have sensitive tendencies. They're intuitive. We're all intuitive. That's just sort of a God-given thing. But perfectionism crushes any kind of flow, and certainly creative flow, and that you have to find a way to kind of move that out. So whether it's lying to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be easy. This is going to be nothing. Nobody's going to see this. Whatever it is that I say, that sometimes starts it. But it's also for me, something just catches my eye. It's not, I don't know that I have a planned creative process, although I'm moving in that direction this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of something will come up and that becomes the focus.
Mm-hmm.
When we bought an old antique farmhouse 11 years ago. I should say I bought it, me and my two very small boys, and it was like crazy. But it became my canvas for everything. I was painting walls, I was painting furniture, I was starting gardens, I was starting containers. Even sort of what I cooked in the house, started to match that house. So I think for me, process becomes wherever I am. It's whatever the season is. I just did a retreat this past weekend, which I'm now starting these quarterly online virtual retreats. They're so lovely. They're such a great way to access. We come together, we go on and off the phone, we do little projects. And, part of the focus was the season and sort of winter being a time of dormancy. And how do you sort of get the most bang for your buck out of a season, or out of dinner time, or out of what's another, I think wherever I am becomes the canvas in a certain way, so making it be the most of what it's meant to be, looking for its essential nature.
I love that. Yeah.
I think that's, and I really am just sort of defining this as we go, because I haven't thought about these questions for myself as much, but it's very much about sort of finding the essence of what it is. So when we had this beautiful, really wild backyard, we had 2 acres of this very beautiful country land, but it was land that wanted to go wild. So it couldn't be a certain kind of garden. It had to be the garden that it wanted to be, with a little bit of, twisting and tugging from me.
It becomes a relationship.
It becomes such a relationship. And I think, even I mentioned this to you just before we started recording, even this whole process of aging, I'm in my late 50s now. And I think even that, it's like sort of thinking about adornment and how do you make peace with it and how do you do it? How do we age in a way that's not obscene? Where we're not trying to be something that we just can't possibly be.
Yeah.
I have friends that are talking about plastic surgery, and to me, I can hear sort of my mother's voice saying, well, if you paint the windows, then then soon the ceiling's going to look kind of dingy, and then if you paint the door, then it's like it just can't end. So I think you have to make peace with where you are, whether it's around aging, whether it's around what house you're in, what body you have. I'm never going to be a certain kind of body, and I'm very at peace with that. For some reason I have been for a long time. So I think what is your kind of beauty? What's your kind of truth? What's your kind of sort of dropping into that in a very intuitive way and in a very present and accepting way.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. And
such a better way.
You've hit on so many amazing things. I love the way that, just hearing the way you describe your creative process, how deeply entwined with space it is, and how it's practical, like it's in the spaces you're in and the times that you're in, and yet through that practicality you're finding the sacred creative energy is what I feel within the way that you're approaching, within your intentions, with that approach to the space and the space that you're creating. And when you spoke, it reminded me, I know exactly how I found your site now. And it's because of the women that I work with when I do mentoring as well. A topic that comes up across the board, every single woman I've ever worked with on an intimate level in that way, the issue of body image and often body weight comes up. And so I was doing some of my own online research around language with that. And one of the things that you articulated, and I don't remember if it was an article you wrote or a video, I just don't remember that, but you were talking about body weight and the loss of body weight on energetic terms. So shedding weight as being related to shedding a belief system. And I just went, I got chills. I remember when I read that or heard that, whichever it was, but I just remember being like, yes.
I think of weight as being so energetic in every way. Again, this retreat that I was doing last weekend, one of the things that we did where I did sort of like a beat the clock decluttering. So they had 20 minutes to go into their closet and or their house and pick 10 things.
Nice.
That just made that weren't a fit.
Yeah.
in terms of how they wanted to feel. You know, when you put on something that's ripped or stained, there's an energy to that. It doesn't feel good. It makes you feel frumpy. It makes you feel, you know, not whatever it is. Or if you're walking into what I call the closet of shame, you know, where all the things that don't fit
Yeah.
are the things that you decided to put, you know, first up in the closet. It's like, get rid of them. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
like you don't want to, nobody wants to sort of be hit with that kind of energy and feeling. You know, everything can feel better. And again, this is not about perfectionism. It's not about making it perfect. It's not about being perfect, but it's sort of like feeling your way into it so that there's not that heaviness, or that
Mm-hmm.
there's not, um, you know, the things that are just going to trigger all sorts of reactions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes. Again, stepping into our true nature and celebrating our strengths and celebrating what we are, like you said before so well, celebrating the beauty that we are and that we carry. And I wrote down, I love when you go to your site right now, your homepage, you have this beautiful little
It's
tagline at the
new.
top. It's gorgeous.
Thank
And
you.
it says at the top, I've got to tell everybody this. There is a deep and mystical hunger to know the extraordinary gifts and power of your true nature. A deep and
It
mystical
almost makes
hunger.
me cry hearing
Oh,
it read.
it's so true. And
So true. And that's, you know, that's the Carolyn, and that's Carolyn Mace's influence. She's been
absolutely.
a very big teacher for me, one of a few. And but it is, I think we're hungry. And I think, you know, what I most love to do in my work, whether it's around the body issues or around, I'm doing a lot of ritual right now. My big thing that I'm doing with women right now is called Meet Your Medicine,
Mm-hmm.
which is really about, you know, sort of this, it is about who we are. It's about being seen, you know, with, I feel like I have very clear eyes. You know, I feel like my gift of sight is truly sacred, and a gift that I, you know, am so deeply, deeply grateful for, because I
Mm-hmm.
think that when I see the women that I work with, it, whatever mess they think that they're showing up with, whatever, you know, presenting issue they think is so pressing, and it is. It's not to downplay that. It's always
Sure.
poignant and beautiful. But what I see immediately is, I see, you know, I see their singular, unique, you know, mix of their medicine,
Yeah.
what they're bringing,
Yeah.
to the table,
Mm.
not what they're taking away. And that is just, I love that more than anything. You know,
Mm.
I love creating space for that. I love the
Mm-hmm.
language of it. You know, I love watching it unfold. I love preparing for it, because I now have rituals that I do to prepare and start to happen even before, you know, we're meeting. And so, um, all of that's very creative too, because it's, you
Absolutely.
know, you're starting with, you know, seeing things in a certain angle, but something's unfolding and
Mm-hmm.
something wants to be told. You know, that hunger, we all want to be seen. You know, we all want to be
Absolutely.
heard, but there's also so much fear around that. You
Yeah.
know, not most of us have not been seen in all of the most loving ways all of the time, and so in the wish to be seen, there's also a lot of fear.
It's
So I
vulnerable.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, so vulnerable, and shame, and, you know, uncertainty, and all the things that are so naturally uncomfortable. But, you know, I think you are gathering such a community around finding ways to be seen and ways to be heard in all sorts of mediums, you know, pun
Mm-hmm.
sort of intended.
I love hearing what you're saying around this idea of seeing too, because it's just a value and a view that I hold as well. When particularly the reason that I feel so called to work with both artists and healers, whether they identify as one or the other or both, and some of them don't identify as either, but I can see
Yeah.
that they are, and so. But it really, the connecting cord between artists and healers to me is the way we see things, the way that we witness the world around us, and the way we witness relationships, and the way we can shine light upon connections, and also reflect back to people when we're talking about relationship, like you're saying, their medicine, their greatness, their gift, their art of living. And so I love that you've brought up that idea about seeing and how powerful that is. And I also love, you also have somewhere on your website, which has been in my mind all morning as I've been thinking about this talk, is creating change can be sacred. Creating
Creating change
change.
is sacred.
Absolutely.
I think not even can be, but it is, whether we're aware of it or not. You know,
Yeah.
because I think we're being called.
Yeah.
You know, we don't even know, we don't necessarily know that we're being called, or most people wouldn't name it as that.
Yeah.
But we're being called to evolve. We're being called to, you know, suit up. We're being called to express something that only we can bring forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a birthing, there's incredible creativity in change. Which choice are you going to make, and how are you going to make it, and how are you going to put your own unique something on it? But yeah, that really makes me happy that you're noticing those words. I don't know whether people, particularly do or they don't,
Sure.
but I think it's something that I so wish people, could see it that way, because even in the darkest, night, uh, um, we're on holy ground. We
It's
are being called.
transformation. Yeah.
It is. There's so much coming in, and we, sometimes we're more
Holy
aware
ground.
of those things than others. But I believe that we are holy ground.
Yeah. Yes.
My big spiritual teacher that I studied with for 4 years, she actually had sort of a mystery school, and we met, for like 6 long weekends a year, and I studied with her for 4 years, and she actually married my husband and I. She used to always say to us, you are a divine holy woman, you are sacred ground, and I just,
I love that.
those words, they literally, I think we know when we're in the presence of that kind of energy, or if we don't, we need to, because there's nothing that feels better. And I believe that, for artists like you and some of the other women that are going to be, involved in this project, they know that there's something, there's a gift to that. There's a beauty, and there's a heightened consciousness, or, and I think a lot of people will say, it's not me. What's coming through is not me. Like our art, so often, we are the vessel, and we are the channel, and we are the unique expression of it. But there's something else that's coming through, that's coming through us. And how beautiful is that? That it's coming through us.
And that we're of it.
Amazes me.
And as much as it's moving through us, we are it too. And that wholeness with that.
It's coming through it. It's coming through us as us.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though it's divine source, but it's coming through us as us. And I just think that too is amazing. I've been this year, both in my own sort of personal learning, and also in my teaching. And I was teaching at a women's wellness resort for about 8 months last year also. So I was teaching 3 times a day and just seeing a lot of different women. And one of the things, and a lot of what I've been learning, has been so much about present time, about, if you're not, everybody's heard, the power of now, and
sure,
how good it is to be in the present, and mindfulness and all of that. And I still don't think people are really getting how beautiful it is, because aside from the fact that you can't really be all that happy if you're in future, which has a lot to do with anxiety, or past, which can be a lot about regret and depression, what I think is so amazing about being in the present is that, like, that's where the synchronicities show up. It's like, if you're not right here and embodied and in your senses, something could be showing up and you're not there. You're not there for it,
Absolutely.
And so to me, that's sort of a good bribe, for why to stay in your body, even though your body's where, so much pain is, so much trauma, so much of the past stuff. We don't like being in our bodies. We like being sort of in the cerebral, spin, and in our heads, because when you drop into your body, you feel, sensation, and sensation from lots of different times and places, and, body parts and all of that. But it's also where, we're so open to things. And I think, whether it's making art or creating ritual, and creating ritual is very much, a lot of what I'm doing right now. That's sort of my art. They both bring you into the present moment in this really powerful, wonderful way.
Absolutely.
I would imagine that when you're making art, you're there.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about what to make for dinner particularly.
Yeah.
And I think ritual, whether it's, it's like the minute you light the match to light the candle, or the minute you sort of, open your mouth to speak, a prayer or an invocation, or anything. It can be anything, but it brings you into that sort of, it brings you into a different dimension in time, which is very, very present.
Yeah. The ritual piece, the minute, like, I love how you said that, the minute you light the candle, it's like each thing that you do, that you consciously choose to be present with, becomes the shedding away of that weight that we carry. Each thing.
Like that.
It's like that. And then
in an instant.
Yeah. And then it takes you into that timeless space, which is often called the creative zone, which is that life force flow thing, that almost the minute that we realize we're in it, we're back out of it again. But in it is really, to me, that's holistic. That's that whole space. And God, Gosh,
Yeah,
Lisa.
that's where all the good stuff is. I know I could talk about this
I know,
for a
right?
long time. It's like press stop because I want to ask you.
And the presence piece too. I agree with you 100% on that. That is the work that I do most with people too, ultimately, because that is the portal to your intuition, I feel, and what in my experience with my intuition. Like you said, the synchronicities, that's an intuition piece. And you can't get there if you're not being in the present, if you're tethered to the future and to the past. You have to be in this to be open to receiving those messages.
Right, because you're not embodied. And I believe why I named my business Intuitive Bodies, because I believe that it comes in through our senses. The hair on the back of your neck rises up, or you get a weird feeling in your stomach, or your throat gets tight, or you just don't want to engage with the person that you just met. You can feel something coming off of them. So we feel it in our bodies, but you have to be in your body to feel it.
Absolutely. I love your connection to the body with that. It's such an important piece, that embodied piece. And we're all learning about it.
We are all learning it. That was just what I wanted to say. It's like I am so quick to sort of jump into my head, and disconnect that way. But I think, that's just our nature also. And people shouldn't get frustrated around that. We are, it's sort of this left brain, right brain balancing all the time, where our left brain is always scanning, to see, is it safe? Is it safe? Is it safe? What do I have to take care of to make it safe? And that can really, like, there are times that I'm like, oh my God, the internet's becoming my, my support. It's like, I need to shut off all the left brain, all the learning, all the researching, all the Googling, and and get really grounded. And I think, having a practice for grounding is like the best thing, and you can have a very quick, I love teaching this because I have a really quickie sort of method for it. Actually, you get it for free, actually, if you sign up on my website. I didn't mean that to be a plug, but...
No, that's great. That's great.
But I love people to have that, because I think also for the artists that are going to be coming, for the healers, it's like we have to be in that grounded space. Otherwise, things get very confusing. And if you're an intuitive and you're sensitive and you're an empath, you don't really know you don't know who you're feeling. So you can be feeling something, but the truth is, if your boundaries are open energetically, you don't know what you're picking up or who. It may not be your bad mood.
What's theirs and what's yours? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard to tell when you're that, sensitive or open. So, any way that I think that we can clean that up, it's just, again, it goes back to that weight. It's like you're not carrying other people. You're not carrying their stuff. You're not carrying their energy or their emotion. And that's really, really important.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you the question I ask everybody, is how do you define healing today?
I think that's a really good question. It's a really hard question. I think healing, I think some of it goes back to being able to sort of be present, to tolerate where you are in space and time. And to really be very clear to get to the point where you're very clear about what nourishes you, what feeds you, who nourishes and who feeds you, who doesn't, and are willing to kind of make those decisions, to know what you know.
Yeah.
I think to know what we know, to let ourselves, fill up in those ways. If you're somebody who can't take a lot of stimulation, that you have a quieter day, or that, or to know what season you're in. If you're in a season of, huge outputting energy and that kind of work going out, to know that, but then know that the next season needs to be more dormant, just like nature. That, winter, it's dormant. Things aren't dead. They're storing up so that they can burst forth, into the spring when everything comes into bloom and needs that energy. So I think so much of the healing is about, like, knowing and then trying to sort of fall in love with it, versus trying to change it or force it. Nobody wants you to be somebody other. Well, the people that really want you to be someone else other than you are really probably aren't the ones that are that are feeding you. I mean, I always feel like I should put warning signs on my work, because so often when the women, especially, I love working with younger women. I love all ages, but I really love the sort of Saturn return, just like 2830, and because there's so many ways that you can change the trajectory, about what's going to happen. And what was I going to say? But I think, the warning sign, when you start to heal, probably some stuff's going to go. To me, a lot of healing is about letting things go. It's letting beliefs go. It's letting relationships go. Not that there's anything bad or wrong about anybody or anything necessarily, but it just may not be your season to be in that relationship. Or it may not be your season to be, this versus that. And so I think making peace with what is and being willing to release. It's the hardest thing, but if people really knew what was on the other side, they would understand that. I love, going back to Carolyn for a minute, Carolyn Mays, I love the whole notion of sacred contracts because, and I think it's very, very helpful in terms of a healing perspective to know that, like, we are destined to sort of meet certain people and have certain relationships with very specific people and to move through those. Because if you stay too long, if you sort of overstay, the time that you're meant to be in those relationships, if you hold on too tight, you're missing the other sacred contracts that are waiting for you.
Right.
The places, the people, the experiences, and we're meant to have them. I believe.
So we make space. We make space.
So we make space, but most of us are not good at that.
Yeah.
And so you do it a little bit. You don't scare yourself. You don't end the marriage too fast, or break up with the best friend, or pick up and but I think when you start to really trust that you know what you know, that makes way for a lot of healing.
Absolutely. And what I hear in what you're saying too is and what I find is, like, in that knowing what you know and then acting upon it. So applying it to the movements and the decisions we make.
Taking small actions so that you can get some momentum, because people, our culture is so geared towards fast, big, cleansing, whatever. And people can't handle it. It's too big a leap. When I see somebody that's not making changes, or that's feeling like they couldn't sustain a certain change, it's because they took too big a leap.
It feels invasive when it's too fast.
Yeah, it's our brains don't like it.
Yeah.
Neurologically, our brains don't like such big change or so much change. It's like you have to do, things in a way that you can tolerate and be really, gentle with yourself as you're determining what you can tolerate.
Yeah, little steps at a time, or like making a game of it, like you were saying earlier, even,
And you build momentum that way. It's like you do one thing, you get solid on that, and then add something else. People don't do well when they try to do too much at once. It doesn't feel good. It really is too disruptive. But you can get somewhere so fast by the little progressive ones.
So beautiful, Lisa. I love that. I love that.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tell us about what you have going on that you might want to tell people about right now.
Some good stuff. For most of my career, which is, I've been doing this for like, I think, almost 30 years. I'm scared to say that out loud. It's a long time. I've done very long-term intensive work, either around body kinds of issues, and I still do that with people that really, really want to do it, that I think are a good match for the way that I work. But the three things I have going on right now are the Meet Your Medicine session, which is a beautiful 90-minute session where I really sort of shine up my intuition and get ready to, way before the session starts, to really show people what they're here for. Some of it ends up being somewhat work-oriented, which was never my field, to talk about people's work or businesses. But the truth is, I'm like fourth and three. I'm fourth generation entrepreneur on one side, and third or fourth generation.
How natural then?
It comes really natural to me, and for some reason I can really see people's work. So that's part of it. But getting really clear and talking very. I love using symbolic language because I think when we're talking archetypes or symbols, it takes it out of the personal, and people can get a new sense of themselves that sort of lets them let go of their beliefs faster. Excuse me. So that's a beautiful session. It gives me chills when I do them. I really love seeing, like, the light of somebody.
I love the name too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if people would get it, but I figured the ones that were meant to would get it. And then in the same vein is the new digital program that just came out a couple months ago called You Are the Temple. It's called You Are the Temple, The Beauty of Ritual. It's a self-guided digital retreat program. So you can do it like over a weekend and create all these beautiful rituals and healing exercises and techniques. It's clearing energy, it's writing, it's decluttering, it's grounding. It's, I'm really proud of it. I think it's beautiful. It's like 120 pages. And then when people buy that, they also get access to one of my quarterly online retreats. So they also get to have like a half day retreat with me where I'm teaching and guiding, and we're doing meditations, and it's
great.
Beautiful. I'm loving that. So those come every quarter, and anybody that buys the ebook gets into the next one. And then I'm doing my first live retreat.
Yay.
I haven't picked a date. It's either late April or early May in California. We already have the beach house. It'll be 10 to 12 women over a few days. And that will be, I really am just like chomping at the bit to, to be there and do that. I really want to be in the same space with people, having a very physical, sensual, experience and creating experiences for people, again, to clear and release and open and create. And actually we'll be doing some creative stuff. I'm starting to get
excellent,
comfortable in that realm. Yeah.
Well, so lots of fun things happening.
Yeah, some really great things. I'm also going to write, I have one book about the body, but I can feel this calling to me that I'm going to put together another written course on body, weight, and eating kinds of things, and that probably won't be till the summer. But
sure. Well, beautiful, Lisa. Thank you for sharing. And of course, you can meet Lisa through all those wonderful ways, and also in Spectrum 2015 this year. So thank you for agreeing to this chat again, Lisa. It's been a joy. I just feel so positively charged up to go create and just be.
Thank you. I'm so happy to know you. So very honored to be part of this gorgeous project, and to talk to you, of course.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.